For the first time ever in Rome's exhibition Lux and Arcana, the Vatican's secret archives revealed.
They said it was a myth, a rumor whispered by monks and buried by the Vatican. But findings have suggested that this secret time device may have been more than just a rumor after all. They said it could see the past. But what's even more disturbing is the claim that it could also peek into the future. What exactly did it capture? And why did the Vatican reportedly issue a warning decades later, threatening excommunication for anyone who touched it? This device just might hold the keys to one of mankind's greatest mysteries, a machine that photographs the past. In 1972, an Italian magazine published a headline that sounded impossible. It read, "A machine that photographs the past has finally been invented." Let's get this straight. This wasn't fiction or some made-up story. In fact, the man behind the claim, a Benedictine monk named Father Pellegrino Ernetti, told the press that he had personally helped build a machine that could see into the past. According to him, this device could tune into historical events as if they were radio signals, capturing both sound and images from centuries ago. He called it the Chronovisor. Ernetti didn't speak in vague terms. He described, in detail, specific scenes he claimed to have witnessed with his own very eyes. One of them was the ancient Roman senator Cicero, delivering a fiery speech to the Senate. Another was the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the biblical cities wiped out in fire and chaos. He even said he watched the gory crucifixion of Jesus Christ, but he didn't stop there. Ernetti also claimed that a photograph of that very moment was taken through the Chronovisor and that he had seen the image. His revelations felt like conspiracy theories until the photo he claimed the machine produced eventually surfaced. It showed a man on a cross, head tilted, eyes closed, with clear signs of suffering. To some, it looked like a typical religious icon. But Ernetti insisted it was not a painting or an artwork. It was an image captured directly from the past with no editing or illusion. That photograph alone was enough to stir controversy, but there was more. Ernetti said the Chronovisor wasn't just used to watch isolated moments. According to him, the machine helped recover a lost play from ancient Rome named Thyestes by Quintus Ennius, a work that had been considered lost for over 2,000 years. He claimed to have transcribed it directly after watching a full performance via the device, and eventually that transcription was published. The world was shocked. Scientists began to ask questions, and historians were deeply puzzled. But scholars were skeptical about the validity of his claims. They argued that the Latin seemed inconsistent with the playwright Ennius's known style, and so they dismissed the text as a modern forgery. However, Ernetti was insistent. He stood by his story and never admitted to forgery in any form. The article in La Domenica del Corriere turned Ernetti into a strange figure, half scientist, half priest, wrapped in the mystery of a machine no one else had ever seen. He never revealed exactly how it worked, only that it was built with the help of a secret team of scientists. Among them, he claimed, were major names, including Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi. That name immediately raised eyebrows. Why would a world-renowned physicist and a monk be working together on a device that could view history? And although Enrico's involvement created a buzz, Ernetti never clarified why. In fact, after the article came out, he stopped talking about the Chronovisor in public altogether. But just before he stopped talking about this strange device, some strange details leaked out to the public, and these details completely changed what scholars and scientists thought they knew about time travel. You see, Ernetti said the machine was based on the idea that all sound and light waves from the past still exist. He said there were echoes from every moment in time, bouncing endlessly through the universe. He claimed the Chronovisor could detect and reconstruct them, like a cosmic antenna locking onto the frequency of a moment long gone. The idea behind the device made things even more complex. Was this real, or was it all just a hoax? Even after Ernetti's death in 1994, his story refused to fade. The Chronovisor became a disturbing and controversial part of Vatican legend. Some whispered that the device had been dismantled and hidden away. Others believed it had been destroyed after church leaders realized what it could do, because if the past could be observed, it could also be questioned. So what do we actually know for sure? Could Ernetti have made it all up? Could he have been tricked or even pressured into silence? Once you understand how Father Ernetti truly is, you'd understand why his claims should never be taken lightly in the first place. The man behind the machine. To some, Father Pellegrino Ernetti, the man at the center of one of the strangest technological mysteries tied to the Vatican, lived a life that seemed rooted in discipline, study, and faith. He was a Benedictine monk, a man of quiet devotion who spent most of his life at the San Giorgio Maggiore monastery in Venice. But unlike most monks, Ernetti was also a scientist, a musicologist, and a trained exorcist. These were roles that required a unique combination of intellectual rigor and spiritual resilience. He was well versed in ancient music theory and played a key role in helping preserve Gregorian chant. He held teaching positions in physics and music across respected Italian institutions and worked directly with the Vatican on matters of spiritual and scientific importance. This wasn't a man operating on the fringes of reason. He belonged to both the world of science and the world of faith, walking a line that few ever dared to explore as publicly as he would later be forced to. But in the early 1960s, Ernetti crossed a line that even his closest colleagues would struggle to understand when he claimed that he became part of a highly secretive team that brought together scientists, engineers, and Vatican insiders who were tasked with building a device unlike anything the world had ever seen. The goal wasn't to alter time or move through it, it was just to see it, to observe events from the past, exactly as they happened, as if watching live footage from centuries ago. Ernetti described it not as science fiction, but as advanced physics and a natural evolution of wave theory and quantum mechanics applied in a way that allowed past sound and light frequencies to be captured, reconstructed, and displayed. Unlike Hollywood's time machines, the Chronovisor wasn't designed to transport someone physically. By his own account, it looked like a large television or viewing screen, surrounded by antennas, cables, and an array of technical components that worked through the manipulation of electromagnetic radiation, specifically light and sound waves that Ernetti believed were never truly lost, but rather just scattered through space. At the heart of the device, he claimed, were cathode ray tubes, similar to what old televisions used. These tubes received the reconstructed waves from the environment and converted them into visible images and audible sound. The frame of the machine, he said, was built using mysterious alloys, which he later described as unknown metals. He alleged that these metals helped stabilize the signals and limit distortion. In short, the Chronovisor operated more like a time viewing console than a time machine. And the team behind it, if Ernetti is to be believed, was just as remarkable as the machine itself. According to his claims, two of the most significant minds of the 20th century were Enrico Fermi, the Italian physicist who helped build the first nuclear reactor and won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1938, and Werner von Braun, the German rocket scientist who helped develop the V-2 missile during World War II and later became the lead architect of NASA's Saturn V rocket that put humans on the moon. But to some, these claims felt a bit shady because Fermi died in 1954, well before Ernetti ever went public with the Chronovisor story. And von Braun, despite his controversial Nazi background, had become a prominent figure in American aerospace science by the 60s. And so the question was, why would such individuals from such different backgrounds participate in a secret Vatican project? Ernetti never offered clear answers. He refused to give technical details or proof of their involvement, citing secrecy, risk, and the Church's decision to keep the project classified. But even more intriguing was Ernetti's explanation for why the Chronovisor was never shared with the public. He said the Vatican itself became concerned not about the technology's limits, but about its power. The ability to observe past events, especially religious ones, posed a threat to doctrine, tradition, and possibly even geopolitical stability. If someone could watch the crucifixion of Jesus or verify the events of the Old Testament, what would happen to faith if the versions seen didn't match the scriptures? What would happen to governments if historical lies or hidden crimes could be exposed beyond debate? According to Ernetti, those fears weren't theoretical. They could change the very foundation of history. He claimed that after the Chronovisor proved it could work, the device was quietly dismantled and the plans were locked away in a secure Vatican archive, effectively shutting the works out of what could have been mankind's greatest invention. To make matters worse, Ernetti, perhaps under pressure or perhaps out of loyalty, stopped speaking about it publicly after a certain point. What made his story so difficult to dismiss entirely was how little he had to gain from it. He wasn't selling anything. He didn't publish a book, and in interviews, he always maintained a kind of guarded restraint. He said what he said and refused to say more. The few details that did slip out about its components, its signals, and its screens were more than enough to keep researchers, skeptics, and true believers intrigued for decades. And just as curious as what the machine could do is the question of why it was built in the first place. Was it just a theological tool meant to clarify church history? Was it a scientific experiment that went too far? Or was it created because someone in power feared something they wanted to prepare for or possibly prevent might be coming? It's possible that the Vatican didn't just want to look into the past. They hoped to see what was coming next. Did the Vatican see what was coming? The claim that the Chronovisor could view the past was already extraordinary. But according to Father Ernetti, that wasn't the full story. Hidden between his carefully worded interviews and cryptic statements was a suggestion that pushed the limits even further. Ernetti claimed that the machine could do more than just replay history. It could, in some way, reveal events that had not yet happened. To understand how we got from viewing the crucifixion of Christ to peering into the future, we need to go back to a curious event in 1988. That year, more than a decade after Ernetti first spoke about the Chronovisor, the Vatican issued an official warning, a decree that, on the surface, seemed oddly specific. The statement, issued under the authority of the Vatican, read, "Any person using an instrument of such characteristics would be excommunicated." There was no further clarification or any mention of the Chronovisor by name. However, shortly before his death, Ernetti made another shocking claim when he released an open letter saying, "Pope Pius XII forbade us to disclose any details about this device because the machine was very dangerous. It can restrain the freedom of man." Why would the Vatican release such a statement about a machine it had never acknowledged existed? Why introduce a punishment for using something that, according to some records, was nothing more than a myth? To those who believed Ernetti, the message was clear. The Chronovisor had been real, and the Church was now drawing a line in the sand. Not only had the device been taken and hidden, but now even the idea of trying to build or operate something like it was considered a spiritual crime. And it was around this time that a lesser-known but far more chilling claim began to surface. According to some of Ernetti's confidants and researchers who spoke with him privately, the Chronovisor wasn't limited to replaying history. In its most advanced form, it could also be tuned to pick up vibrations that had not yet occurred, suggesting that time, rather than being a straight line, might actually be more like a loop, where past, present, and future all exist at once. Ernetti, always careful with his words, never offered clear proof of this, but he dropped hints. In one private letter, he described the Chronovisor as being able to tune into events that are not yet vibrations of matter. This wasn't a wild proclamation made for publicity. It was a quiet, cryptic remark from a man who had already risked much by saying anything at all. To some, it was nonsense. To others, it sounded uncomfortably close to what modern theoretical physics has been exploring for decades. Today, concepts like the block universe are no longer confined to science fiction. In physics, the block universe theory proposes that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, and that time is not something we move through, but something we observe in slices. Just as we can walk through space and pass through different rooms, this theory suggests time is already there, laid out like a landscape, and we're simply moving through it moment by moment. Under this framework, the idea of tuning into the future isn't so far-fetched if you had the right tools. If the Chronovisor was designed to capture and reconstruct energy patterns like light, sound, or vibrations, and if those patterns were somehow preserved in a timeless field, then, in theory, it could be possible to access not only what had been, but also what would be. So, what might the Vatican have seen? Well, that's where the theories turn from strange to haunting. Anetti never said what the Chronovisor revealed about the future, but over the years the rumours have grown quickly. Some conspiracy theories claimed that the Church saw glimpses of global catastrophes like wars, environmental collapse, and the breakdown of world governments. Others believed the device showed signs of institutional failure, including a weakening of the Church itself, scandals, and a spiritual vacuum that would grow across the globe. There are even disturbing whispers that the Chronovisor may have revealed a second coming and a future return of Christ, wrapped in chaos, division, and judgment. These ideas were never confirmed or recorded in any official Vatican publication. But the theories gained traction for one reason. Why did the Vatican allegedly hide the machine in the first place? Because if the Chronovisor could truly show the future, and if what it revealed was dark, violent, or destabilizing to church doctrine or world order, then hiding it wasn't just about protecting the past, it was about controlling the narrative of the future. It was about preserving faith in a time when too much information could fracture it permanently. And this isn't just speculation confined to the past. The Chronovisor continues to appear in modern conspiracy forums, where people debate whether secret technology still exists that allows powerful institutions to manipulate public understanding of history and steer future events. It's inspired science fiction novels, TV series, and even government disclosure theories. Some rumors suggest that the original machine was never fully dismantled, but instead rebuilt and hidden in a new form where it's been used quietly, away from the public eye. There are even online rumors that the Chronovisor has been replaced by more advanced versions, perhaps using artificial intelligence, quantum computing, or classified surveillance satellites capable of something similar, like reconstructing the past and future through massive data analysis and electromagnetic resonance. Of course, no proof has been found, but the theories persist, and at the center of it all remains that unanswered question. What did the Vatican see? What did a team of scientists working in secret under the seal of the Church uncover when they pointed their mysterious machine forward in time? Did they see the collapse of civilizations, the unraveling of truth, a prophecy unfolding too quickly? Or was it something more personal that could make even the most faithful uneasy? But if the Church truly believed the Chronovisor could glimpse the future, then the implications go beyond doctrine. It becomes a question of power, of how much truth should be allowed to circulate in the public domain, and whether society as a whole was prepared to handle the weight of such revelations. Knowledge of future disasters or conflicts could trigger panic. Worse, knowing in advance what specific people or groups would do might lead to a kind of moral paralysis or authoritarian overreach. Interestingly, echoes of this fear can be found in how governments today treat sensitive data. Just as classified intelligence is withheld to prevent social unrest or geopolitical fallout, the Vatican may have chosen silence to prevent a crisis of belief. In forums, books, and podcasts, the Chronovisor has taken on a life of its own. It's been linked to everything from suppressed alien technologies to secret experiments in time perception. Some unverified theories claim it was briefly housed in the Vatican Apostolic Archive, an underground repository so secure and vast that even many cardinals have no access to it. Others suggest that world leaders have had access to Chronovisor-like tools, and that its principles have been quietly embedded in new, more rational-sounding technologies, like real-time facial recognition combined with historical pattern prediction. Still, the core idea remains the same. Somewhere, somehow, the ability to see time differently may exist, and someone may allegedly be keeping it buried. But what do you think? If the Vatican truly saw what was coming, what could have been so devastating that it demanded silence? Tell us in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.